What is up, you guys? So the last game at home was UH versus UC San Diego, and what was their final meeting for the proverbial future as Big West opponents. This was their final one for sure. And fortunately, as you can see by this graphic here, UH came out the winner 72-67. Now, this was a much-needed win as far as the standings are concerned, and there was some bad news before tip-off as it was revealed that Aaron Hunkenclater is out for the season with what was deemed to be a turf toe injury, and that is a big dagger to the Rainbow Warriors. I know it doesn't look like it right now with the way that they're playing, but believe me, with someone like Aaron Hunkenclater, who can put up so much assists on everybody, I don't care who your opponent is, for someone like Aaron to be out for the season is a huge blow to the roster. I was hoping that this was just a temporary thing and Aaron would be back on the court with some time to spare, maybe for the Big West tournament, but who knows? But unfortunately, that's not happening. And I certainly hope that isn't the last time we're going to see Aaron Hunkenclater in a UH uniform. The kid can play really good at the point position. He proved it last season, and he was proving it so far this season. Unfortunately, that turf toe injury has ultimately ended his season. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit, but I've already gotten that elephant out of the way. But remember, guys, subscribe if you think that I'm worth listening to, or if you just want to see some more of my games. I will try to have one up this coming week, at least anyway. But in the meantime, let's get into this.
Warrior basketball.
This is it. UH defeats UCSD 72-67. Tom Beattie given undeserved boos. Isaac Johnson comes up big. Now, I'm going to start out with Isaac Johnson because after the first half, he had 17 points of his 20 total. Now, he may have been held to only 3 points in the second half, which was a bit unfortunate because I thought that Isaac Johnson would put up at least 25 by the end of the game. But unfortunately, that didn't turn out to be. And I don't think it was a case of Isaac Johnson trying too hard. I just think that UC San Diego must have realized that Johnson is their key player, one of them anyway, and they were able to keep him in check for much of the second half. But still, 20 points is nothing to sneeze at. I thought that Isaac would do a bit better, but still, I'll take 20 points any day of the week. He was only a rebound shy of a double-double, but at the same time, 20 points and 9 rebounds, you can't complain about that for sure.
Yeah!
There was a time in the first half, now I'm getting into this right away, but Tom Beattie was given some, what I would call undeserved boos. And you know why? Because Tom Beattie played for the University of Hawaiʻi for 2 seasons, and then he transferred to UC San Diego, and he talked about following in the footsteps of former UH Hilo player Aniwa Tate Jones, who was also from New Zealand, and he transferred to UC San Diego this past couple seasons ago, rather. And especially after UH did not qualify for the Big West tournament last year, I don't think that really played into why Tom transferred to UCSD. When you return to your old stomping grounds and you're given boos by the crowd, now this did not come right away. It actually stemmed from an incident on the court between himself and former teammate Gytis Nemeikša. Now, Gytis is still on Hawaiʻi, but Tom Beattie is not. And For Tom, he led UC San Diego with 14 points, but he actually fed off the crowd's boos, and I was actually a bit surprised by that. To be honest, I don't think Beattie really deserved the boos, but I understand why he got them. And especially since you went from a friend to the enemy. And when you return to your old stomping grounds, the crowd is likely not going to be on your side, at least until the clock hits 0. And that's exactly what happened with Tom Beattie. Now, why do I think that the boos were undeserved? Although Tom really is a Rainbow Warrior at heart, we all know that because he played for UH for 2 seasons. I do think that the boos were undeserved because he plays hard and you can't fault him for that. Can you fault him for transferring to UC San Diego? Technically, no, because, you know, if you want to follow in the footsteps of a fellow New Zealander, then okay, I can see the reasoning. But as far as transferring back to UH, that is very much a pipe dream at this point, for sure, because you don't often hear about basketball players transferring back to their old stomping grounds. And Tom Beattie, in this case, would be transferring from UC San Diego back to UH. Even though there is the possibility, I do think that the odds of that happening are slim to none. If I had to put a percentage rate on it as a ballpark figure, I say there's a 2% chance of that happening, of Tom Beattie transferring to UH and becoming a Rainbow Warrior once again. But to be honest, I don't think Tom really minded the boos all that much. But still, to lead your team with 14 points over the team that you used to play for, wowee. Is that a screw you to UH? Absolutely not. Deep down, we all know that Tom Beattie is a Rainbow Warrior through and through, even though he doesn't wear the UH uniform anymore. You know, just like when you graduate from University of Hawaii, you're still viewed as a Rainbow Warrior through and through. But in my view, even though Tom Beattie transferred to a rival opponent, became an in-conference transfer, Tom Beattie is still a Rainbow Warrior at heart, at least in my view anyway. Now, for those of you who are not on that bandwagon, that's fine. Whatever floats your boat, really. But still, you wear the UH uniform. I don't care what sport you play. You're a Rainbow Warrior in our hearts, for sure. Now, as far as this game is concerned, I would give that game probably a B+. I do think on one side of the coin they could have run away with it, but they kind of let their foot off the gas pedal early on, and that's how UCSD got back in front. And give UCSD credit because both the men's and the women's basketball teams won the Big West tournament in 2025. And that was their first year being eligible for the tournament. And when you think about it this way, it's like they won the tournament 1 year and they're saying, adios, we're going to another conference. And that's exactly what they're doing. Because next season, UC San Diego is leaving the Big West for the West Coast Conference. And to be frank, that kind of reminds me a little bit of some Supercross races like Brad Lackey and Greg Albertine, who won a title and then retired after the following season. And what we're seeing from UCSD is a similar thing. They won the Big West tournament once and then decided to go to another conference. Can you blame them? Not really. But then again, the Big West is notoriously a one-bid league. And for UH to be moving to the Mountain West is going to be a great decision all around. Because I do think recruitment is going to help, and they have a better chance of qualifying for the dance. Now, another guy that's not on this banner that I also should talk about Isaac Finlinson. When Isaac Johnson was having a hard time in the second half, trying to get up to 25 at least, which is what I thought he'd get at, Isaac Johnson, at least 25 points. Isaac Finlinson came up big. He scored 12 of his 15 points in the second half and gave UH the lead with a three-pointer with about 10 minutes to go.
Got it! Back in front!
And that was after UH went through a scoring drought of 3 minutes where most of, if not all of their shots came from long range. And when you look at it that way, the average person would probably say, hey, if it didn't work 3 times, what makes you think it's going to work the next 10? So what I would have liked to see is them take it inside, and they could have avoided that scoring drought, which is exactly why I gave this game a B+, because I would have liked to see them take it in more often, but still, they got the win, and that's the most important thing. Now, it wasn't until this triple from Hunter Erickson, which was a deep one, by the way, it wasn't until that triple that UH just about put the clamps on that game.
7 seconds, you got to do something. Oh!
Now, give UCSD credit because they didn't quit. And even though they cut the gap down to 2 points, UH was ready for them as far as handling the press is concerned, save for one turnover with exactly a minute to go from Dre Bullock. But as far as turnovers are concerned, I think it was about even. But still, there are things to clean up, and I do think that UH will clean them up when they face off against Cal State Bakersfield on Thursday at the Accardo Center. Now, UH was able to beat Bakersfield at home by 21. And do I expect them to do the same thing at the Accardo Center? I don't know. I'd like to say yes, but frankly, I would just be happy with at least an 8-point win. And that's why I'm putting UH as 8-point favorites. Because of the home game was any indication, this is going to be an uphill battle for Cal State Bakersfield. Now, they're good on offensive rebounds, and they're pretty good with the press. And I do not expect this to be a real cakewalk like how Riverside turned out to be. And Riverside is one of those teams that can really screw you over in the final 5 to 6 minutes of the second half. I don't care who your opponent is. But obviously, Riverside, they've been dealing with some injuries, and that's unfortunate. Just like with Bakersfield, they were without C.J. Hardy, and I think Corey Stevenson as well. But are they healed up and ready to go yet? I'm not sure. But if you're UH, you hope they aren't. But make no mistake, if Aaron Hucken-Clater were healed up and still playing, he would be a total threat for sure. And that's where I'll leave it. So anyway, guys, that's all for today. And remember, subscribe, and I'll see you all for my next recap after Cal State Bakersfield. Unfortunately, I won't be able to listen to the game on Saturday against CSUN because I will be at another tournament emceeing with my partner. And I'll see you all then. So anyway, guys, go Bows, subscribe, and I'll see you all again.